Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
It's kind of crazy to think that, like liver disease, something we usually blame on lifestyle choices, could be influenced by stuff that happened even before we were born.
It really makes you rethink how we view health, huh?
Yeah, the study we're diving into today suggests that a parent's drinking habits, even before they conceive a child, could increase their kid's risk of, developing liver cancer down the road.
Okay, that's a little unnerving. So you're saying that what mom and dad do before I'm even a thought could affect my health decades later?
Pretty much, yeah.
So what exactly did this study look at?
Well, the researchers were looking at the combined effects of parental alcohol consumption and exposure to an environmental toxin called diethylnitrosamine.
Diethylnitrosamine.
Right. It's often used in research, and it's known to cause liver damage.
Okay.
So they wanted to see if, a parent's history of drinking would make their offspring more sensitive to this toxin's, harmful effects.
So they used mice for this, right?
You got it.
I think I remember reading that in the Medical Express article.
Why mice? It seems like a big jump from mice to people.
Yeah, you're right. They did use mice.
Okay.
And while they may seem pretty different from us, they actually share a lot of biological similarities, especially when it comes to how our cells function.
Right.
And for this type of study where you're looking at very specific cellular and molecular mechanisms, mice offer a really controlled environment, where researchers can carefully manipulate variables and observe the effects.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So walk me through the study design, how they set it up.
So they divided the mice into 4 groups.
Okay.
One group was the control, meaning no alcohol exposure.
Okay.
Then there was a group where only the mothers were exposed to alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Another where only the fathers were exposed.
Okay.
And then a final group where both parents were exposed.
So they were trying to see if it made a difference depending on if it was mom or dad or both who had been drinking.
Precisely. And they didn't just give the mice a little sip here and there to mimic chronic alcohol use in humans. The fathers were given alcohol for 6 weeks before conception and throughout the mating period.
Wow.
The mothers were exposed for 10 days before conception and then until halfway through the pregnancy.
Okay, so that's a pretty significant period of exposure.
Yeah.
But how does the environmental toxin, what was it called again?
Diethylnitrosamine.
Right, diethylnitrosamine. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, that was you could call it the second hit.
Okay.
You see, the researchers wanted to see how prior alcohol exposure might influence how the offspring responded to a known liver toxin.
Mm-hmm.
So when the male pups were 14 days old, they were given a single dose of diethylnitrosamine.
Seems a little rough for the little guys.
Yeah.
What happened to them? Did they all develop liver problems?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh.
So all the offspring, even the ones whose parents hadn't been drinking, showed some level of liver damage after being exposed to the diethylnitrosamine, which isn't surprising given what we know about this toxin. But what was really eye-opening was that the offspring of the alcohol-exposed parents were significantly more susceptible to the toxin's harmful effects.
Wait, so even though all the pups were exposed to the same amount of the toxin,
right,
the ones whose parents had been drinking experienced more severe liver damage?
Exactly.
Why? What's the connection?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And to understand why, we need to dive into the world of cells and molecules.
Okay.
The researchers dug deep into the liver tissue of these mice, and they found something fascinating.
Okay.
It all comes down to those tiny powerhouses within our cells called mitochondria.
Mitochondria.
Yeah, think of them as the energy factories that keep everything running smoothly.
Okay, so we're talking mitochondria, those tiny energy factories inside our cells. What were the researchers seeing in these mice? Were the mitochondria just not working as well in the offspring of alcohol-exposed parents?
Yeah, pretty much. They found that the offspring of the alcohol-exposed parents had impaired activity of something called mitochondrial complex.
Mitochondrial complex.
Right. It's a key component of energy production within the mitochondria. So basically, these tiny energy factories weren't running at full capacity.
Okay.
And when mitochondria aren't working efficiently, it can lead to a buildup of harmful molecules called reactive oxygen species.
Reactive oxygen species.
Yeah, and these molecules can damage cells and promote inflammation, which, as we know, is linked to all sorts of health problems, including cancer.
So it's like a domino effect.
Right.
alcohol exposure leads to less efficient mitochondria, which leads to more harmful molecules and inflammation,
Yeah.
and ultimately a greater risk of liver cancer.
You got it. That's a great way to put it. The researchers also found increased markers of oxidative stress, which further kind of solidified this link between this mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress, and inflammation in the offspring of the alcohol-exposed parents. And there's another piece to this puzzle, too, a signaling pathway called transforming growth factor beta, or TGF-beta. TGF-beta.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for me? What is it, and why is it important?
Sure. Think of TGF-beta as a communication system within our cells.
Okay.
It helps cells talk to each other and coordinate their activities.
Gotcha.
But alcohol exposure seems to disrupt these signals,
Okay.
particularly in the liver.
Interesting.
And this disruption can lead to, problems like inflammation and fibrosis.
Fibrosis?
Yeah, essentially scarring of the liver tissue.
Oh, okay.
And remember those liver biopsies I mentioned?
Yeah.
They showed signs of both inflammation and fibrosis in the offspring of the alcohol-exposed parents. Wow, this is all starting to make sense now. So the alcohol exposure is potentially causing this cascade of problems within the liver cells, from energy production issues to messed up communication signals, all contributing to a more vulnerable environment for tumor development. Is that what the study concluded?
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Okay.
But there's another layer to this that's really intriguing. Remember how we talked about the different groups of mice? Well, the study found that dual alcohol exposure, where both parents had been drinking, led to the most severe outcomes.
Okay.
It was worse than either maternal or paternal exposure alone.
A double whammy. It seems like the effects were compounding when both parents had a history of alcohol use.
Absolutely. And this raises some fascinating questions about something called epigenetic inheritance.
Epigenetic inheritance.
Yeah.
That sounds complex.
It is complex.
Okay.
But basically, it's the idea that a parent's experiences can leave a lasting mark on their offspring's genes, influencing their health and susceptibility to diseases. It's not just the genes themselves being passed down, but also like a sort of memory of the parent's experiences.
Oh, wow.
So in this case, the parental alcohol consumption may have altered something in the offspring's genes that made them more vulnerable to liver damage.
That's a bit mind-blowing. So even if I make healthy choices, my health could still be influenced by what my parents did, even before I was conceived.
It's a possibility.
Wow.
And it's an area of active research. We still don't fully understand all the mechanisms involved, but it really highlights the interconnectedness of our biology and how how experiences can have ripple effects across generations.
Okay, so this study has some pretty big implications.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I'm curious about its limitations. You mentioned this study used mice. Can we really apply these findings to humans?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And an important one to consider. While mice are valuable models in research, they're not perfect replicas of humans. So we can't definitively say that everything we see in mice will translate directly to humans.
Right.
More research is needed to confirm whether these findings hold true in people.
What about the type of alcohol exposure?
Yeah.
Was it comparable to what humans might experience?
That's another limitation to consider. The researchers used fairly high doses of alcohol in this study to try and, replicate chronic heavy drinking in humans.
Okay.
It's unclear whether lower levels of alcohol consumption would have the same effects.
Okay, so we need to be cautious about overgeneralizing from this one study. But it definitely raises some important questions and points to a potential risk that we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. And I think this study is a call to action for more research in this area.
Okay.
We need to confirm these findings in humans, explore the role of epigenetic inheritance in their detail, and understand the long-term health consequences of parental alcohol consumption at various levels. But beyond research, this study has implications for public health messaging and potentially even policy changes.
So what would that look like? What kind of public health message do we need to be sending? So what would that look like? What kind of public health message do we need to be sending?
Well, I think for starters, we need to kind of broaden the conversation about the risks of alcohol.
Got it.
We've focused a lot on maternal drinking during pregnancy,
Right.
which is like incredibly important. But this study highlights that paternal alcohol use matters too.
Yeah.
So we need to be talking to both, men and women about the potential impact of their drinking habits on their future children's health,
Right.
even before they conceive.
So it's about emphasizing that both parents have a role to play in ensuring a healthy start for their children.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding extreme levels of drinking.
Yeah.
This study suggests that even moderate alcohol consumption could have lasting consequences. We need more research to clarify what levels of alcohol exposure are truly safe.
Right.
But in the meantime, I think it's wise to, err on the side of caution.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like this information could be especially relevant for couples who are planning a family or thinking about starting one soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about making informed choices.
Right.
If you're thinking about having children, talking to your doctor about your alcohol consumption habits is a great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
They can provide, personalized guidance based on your individual circumstances.
This has been a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, myself included, don't realize that the choices we make today could have such a significant impact on our children's health, years down the line.
It's a paradigm shift in how we think about health and inheritance.
Yeah.
We often, think of our health as solely determined by our own choices and genetics.
Right.
But this research suggests a much more complex picture. Our health is influenced by the experiences of those who came before us.
And it's not just about liver cancer.
Right.
This study focused on a very specific outcome, but the underlying mechanisms suggest that there could be broader implications for other health issues as well.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Mitochondrial dysfunction and oxidative stress are implicated in a wide range of diseases, from heart disease to neurodevelopmental disorders.
Wow.
So it's possible that parental alcohol consumption could contribute to a greater susceptibility to these conditions in their offspring.
Yeah.
More research is needed, but it's a sobering thought.
So what can we do? We can't change the past, but how can we use this information to protect the health of future generations?
Well, for starters, we need to, continue funding research in this area.
Right.
The more we understand about the mechanisms involved,
Yeah.
the better equipped we'll be to develop, targeted interventions and preventative strategies.
Right.
And we need to, disseminate this information widely so that individuals, healthcare providers, and policymakers can make informed decisions.
Education seems key here.
Yeah.
The more people understand the potential risks, the more likely they are to, make healthy choices.
Precisely. And it's not just about individual choices either.
Right.
We need to, create supportive environments that make healthy choices easier.
Okay.
This could involve things like policies that limit alcohol advertising,
Yeah.
increase taxes on alcoholic beverages, and provide accessible resources for people struggling with alcohol dependence.
So it sounds like this study is a call for a multifaceted approach involving research, education, and policy changes.
It is. We need to address this issue from multiple angles to truly protect the health of future generations.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that our health is interconnected,
Yeah.
both across generations and within our communities.
This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that our choices today can ripple through time and impact the health of our children and grandchildren, it's a powerful one.
Absolutely.
It's a responsibility we all share.
I completely agree. It's about recognizing that we're all part of a larger story,
Yeah.
a story that unfolds across generations. And by understanding the connections between our choices and the health of future generations,
Yeah.
we can start writing a healthier and more hopeful chapter for all of us.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into parental alcohol use and its impact on liver health.
Yeah.
We encourage you to continue exploring this topic and consider what it means for you, your family, and your community.
Remember, knowledge is power, and by understanding the interconnectedness of our health, we can empower ourselves and future generations to live healthier, happier lives.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.